Welcome back to PodX. This is me, Ayush Majithia, your host. Our guest for today is Anissa Malhotra Jain. She's a content creator and a style icon who advocates mental health and social well-being through her social media channels. I'm really excited to have her on this podcast talking about fashion, creativity, mental health, mindfulness, and so much more. Anissa, thank you so much for joining in. It really means a lot to me.
Thank you so much, Ayush. I think it's actually an honor for me to be able to have another platform to share my ideas and views on. I can never stop talking. So, thank you for having me.
Okay, I wanted to start off straight away with the mental health aspect of it because I've seen a lot of creators who are out there, who are only showing the amazing lifestyle that they're living in, where they look really good, all these filters and all that stuff, while you're putting out all these posts saying that you don't always wear makeup, you only wear it when you're going outside, and you're showing the real and authentic self of yourself. So, why did you decide to do that, or like, what was the process behind it?
I think social media is so much about self-expression. I've always been somebody who needs balance in their life. Like I've never been somebody who wears makeup all the time, is dressed up all the time. Even though now it's part of my job, I keep it purely to being my job and going out. On most days, you will find me at home in my track pants without a spot of makeup on my face, hair not done, reading something on the internet. So I think that people don't show that part of their lives because it's not aspirational enough. There are times when I feel down. There are times when I feel upset. I don't feel good about myself, the way I look, the way I feel. And I've realized the best thing to do in that situation is just accept it and deal with it. So on a day that I'm not feeling great about myself, I don't want to slap on makeup or I don't want to dress up. I want to feel that moment. I'm not feeling good. It's okay. Accept it and be in it. And this too shall pass. That's kind of been my philosophy, to be honest, throughout. As for the makeup part of it, I really and truly do feel the most myself without a spot of makeup on my face and without any pretension in my home clothes. And luckily for me, I have a husband and a family who feels the same way about me too. Like my husband always tells me, he's like, you're the most beautiful without a spot of makeup on your face because that's when you really look like yourself. And in a
Correct.
world where, like you said, every single person is just trying to look the best they can, use the most filters, put the most editing on their pictures and their bodies. I think it's really important to show the younger generation of girls that that's not how it is, because you have no idea how damaging it can be to somebody's psyche growing up.
Correct. And I was also reading about it. What happens is it's not just, it has an impact on other people's self esteem who are watching it, but it's also kind of impacting your own self esteem. Because, like you said, a lot of people, what happens is they get so used to the habit of makeup that when they are kind of not wearing it, they feel low about it because they're not looking like they are used to it. They're not used to looking at themselves without makeup.
And it
Versus for
becomes
you,
exactly.
correct. Correct. So for you,
So
what
go ahead,
happens
go ahead.
is, yeah. So for you, what you're doing is you're keeping your side balanced. You're only wearing it when you're going out, but you want to see and show your authentic side. So I think that's the really cool part about it. And that's why even when I spoke to you the first time, I found you to be really confident, which was really cool.
That I owe to my parents because growing up, I was an only child, a girl, and my parents literally were like, "You can do whatever the hell you want." Like my father has thrown me in the pool at the age of 3 years old, being like, "You can swim. It's fine. You can do it." So I've always been really confident in my ability to do anything, even if I'm not good at it. But it helps, yeah.
But did you have any like situations in school or when you were younger where there was something that dragged down your self-esteem to a certain extent, maybe?
I think I think every child in some way has it growing up. So I was a sports person growing up. I played squash for the state. I used to swim at a city level, and I was captains of all of them in my school, and also an athlete. So for me, I didn't actually. I threw myself into a situation where I was always busy and always competing, and I think what a sport does for you at that age is helps you keep your mind active and gives you kind of like a competitive sense, which is really good. But having said that, it also makes you feel a lot of disappointment. So I think some of my biggest feelings of underconfidence in while growing up were when I wasn't performing in my sport, or when I was coming, like, in the tens and twenties instead of in the first five, because it was so important to me that I was like, I have to be at the top of that game. And as a student, I was good. I wasn't great. I wasn't like top of the class for sure, but I wasn't a bad student. So obviously, like anywhere where you're feeling like you're lacking a little bit, you definitely feel the pressure. And I think a lot of the Indian school systems as well make you feel that way. Sorry, there's a fly. um, so yeah, I mean, you definitely feel underconfident, and I think any child, the way they look growing up, it's just an awkward phase, like I was at one point really skinny, and then at one point I had put on a little bit of weight growing up. So you just never really know how you're supposed to look, what you're supposed to feel like, what is right, what is wrong. And I think it really helps at that point to have parents and peers who keep you feeling comfortable and confident, which is what I had growing up. So that made a big difference.
Yeah, I would say like the peers and parents part is really important. For me also, I had that phase, like I'm pretty average in academics. So I was never the top of the class. I performed good enough, I would say, but not the top 10 or all.
Right.
So, and I was I was not good at sports at all. So what happened was, and I was a very notorious student also. So what happened was a lot of times being a naughty one and not being in the top of the class landed me in a lot of trouble. And you
Yeah.
know what used to happen even with when you're talking to other children in class, they don't really value your opinion because you're not one of the of teachers' favorites, nor you're very good at
Yeah,
sports.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So I used to feel very underconfident because, whenever there's a group conversation, if I said something, my opinion never really had a weight. And I
I
had
can.
peers like like the close friends, they used to encourage me a lot that it's okay and all that stuff. And yes, that's when I felt very underconfident. And then I actually started. Okay, I'm going in a story if you're fine with it.
No, I want to know how you grew out of that actually. That's
Correct.
interesting to me as well.
So I actually started a YouTube channel in ninth standard, which was my second one, I think, back then. And I created this fake accent video, which I find
Okay.
terribly funny now. But I spoke in fake accents and all.
That's correct.
And back then I also had a unibrow. So what happened was people took screenshots of that video and they started making fun of my unibrow. And one of them made a Instagram ID making memes about it. And that's when my confidence got completely shattered and I deleted all those videos and all that stuff. And for the next 6 or 8 months, I was very quiet and all that stuff. I didn't know what to do. And then finally, some of my close friends again said that, no, you should do it for yourself. You should start and all. So I started making these fluffy motivational videos. And even though they didn't make sense, because I've not achieved anything to talk about motivation and all, but they didn't make sense. But some of my close friends, they would always write these nice comments to support me and build up my self-esteem and all that stuff. So they put these little cute comments saying how nice this is, watch the whole video and all that stuff. It was super
Yeah.
fun. And that kind of slowly built my self-esteem. And then I started podcasting. So it's like a phase where if my friends hadn't supported me with these small messages by telling me to continue and going ahead, I probably wouldn't have started podcasts. And with every podcast, I think I've become more and more confident. So I wouldn't have had the level of confidence that I have, I would say.
That's great because that's brought you to where you are today. And I'd love to know where those bullies are right now, because there are a ton of them in this world and they don't deserve to be anywhere. I think we see it everywhere. It's online, it's everywhere. People trolling everybody. It's just such a toxic environment. And it's just important for people to feel free of that. And I'm really happy to see you doing what you love, despite anybody trying to bring you down, and
Correct.
having a
So
completely different perspective on things.
yeah, that's why I feel like the peers and the friend group matter a lot, which I realized later on in life. But
I mean, that brings me to another topic that's very important to me, which is my friends. I'm an only child. My cousins are very close to me, of course, but my friends are my whole life. They're my universe. I don't know what I'd do without them. They've been with me in like the hardest times. They've been with me in the happiest times, and you realize how much having a good support group means. I think as you get older, more than when you're younger. When you're younger, it's all fun and games, but it's like as you're aging, as you're going through tough times by yourself, you know that that support means the world to you, that they'd rush and be there in a second.
correct. So I wanted to ask you this since we're talking about
Yeah.
it. How do you think you can differentiate between someone who's a genuine friend and someone who's just wanting that to use you or use your resources? How would you differentiate that? Especially because of the platform and stage you're in. I'm pretty sure there would be different people reaching out to you for different reasons. So how would you do it?
So I think as a person, like everybody knows how I am, because what you see is what you get. Like what I am on social media is what I am in person. So I think, like, that it's a really cheesy term, but like your vibe attracts your tribe kind of thing. Well, I mean, my closest friends have been my closest friends for the last like 20 years. I have a group of 5 girls and my two cousin sisters and my cousins, and they're all super close to me, and they're like my, my little crew. But I think I think people who know me know that I can't deal with uh, fakeness and ingenuity. For me to be friends with somebody or close to somebody, they have to be very transparent people. And I just don't think I associate or I can take a conversation further with somebody who's not genuine.
Correct.
And there are a lot of
So
people like that, of course, in every walk of life. You see that all talk, you know, no substance. And that to me is like, yeah, to each your own. Maybe you've lived a life where that's what's needed for you. But for me, it's like very important for to be backed by something solid rather than just gassing.
correct. So since we're talking about this, I wanted to actually ask you this about human connection. So right now, you said you've had your closest friends, you've known them for more than 20 years. But the challenge which a lot of my generation would be facing, and I'm sure a little bit would be even faced by your generation, is that since people are going so much on social media and everything's happening virtually, how do you think one can build proper human connection?
See, which is why it brings me back to my point that I think what started happening in our world today is that our social presences have actually become like our alter ego, or are like representative of what we are in the world. There are two worlds now. It's your physical world and it's your digital world. And the physical world is still pretty much very existent. But I think also because of COVID, it's been super accelerated into the digital world in a very fast span of time, which has affected mostly, I think, the younger generation because they're more active on it. Which is why it's really important to try and maintain that kind of authenticity online as well as offline. So when you're spreading your network and you're trying to meet like-minded people, whether it's in the business space or in the personal space, you are attracting what you're giving out. Like today, you and I are having a conversation. We're having a conversation with pretty much our digital personas per se. Like today,
Correct.
I am coming here to speak to you, and you are coming here to speak to me, knowing that we're not in a physical world but a digital world. So I think both of us are also doing our best to bring our authenticity forward in that sense, which is what's required.
Correct. But I find it actually very scary about what's going to happen. So I've looked at some of my younger cousins. Whenever we go for a family dinner and all, I have a cousin who's actually 9 years old and is on Instagram, which I find to be very. I don't know. I find it's not really a good thing. And even
It's
when I've seen it with other friends and all, even with their younger siblings, what happens is whenever the kids are bored, the parents just give them the phone, which
absolutely that's
is
called screen syndrome. Like
correct. So I'm finding it like a scary world that it's becoming, because now what will happen is if the coming generation gets used to being on the phone the whole time, whenever they meet, they're still going to be on the phone,
right,
which is
it's
what I'm
happening with
scared
us.
about happening.
It's happening with us. Like I see sometimes I'm sitting with my friends, or we're all on our phones, either referring to something on Instagram or talking about something, that a picture or something that we've seen. So I think it's literally just the thing, the well, the problem of the time, I would say. But having said that, I do feel that if this is used positively, it could make a huge impact. Because if you think about, zoom out and look at the actual thought of it, you're capturing a child, which is very difficult to do. You're capturing a child on a device. Say they weren't using it for something that was frivolous or pointless. Say they were using it for purely educational purposes. They're already
Correct.
hooked onto the screen. That would make a big difference.
Correct. Yeah, I would say that,
However,
but
it is very important for children to go out and play and be with their friends and enjoy their time. I'm a huge believer of that because that's how all of us have grown up. I'm sure you have as well. It's
correct.
just recently that we've been connected to our phones.
Yeah, maybe that's why I find this idea to be very scary and freaky,
Yeah.
because it's very new to me and the generations before us also, I would say that. But with social media happening and all, I'm pretty sure a lot of people will be facing mental health challenges. So how do you think can they keep themselves happy mentally, or what should they do?
I myself scroll through social media, obviously, like maybe 10 times a day because it's part of my job now. Um, Look, I think everybody puts their best foot forward on social media, more so than otherwise, but also otherwise. When you go out for a party, everybody's in their finest and, putting themselves in the best way that they can. But it becomes really toxic when that is expected to be the standard, which is the biggest problem that we face. Um, whether it's celebrities making it the standard, brands making it the standard of a woman to look a particular way or dress a particular way, even men for that matter. It's not isolated to women. That's when it becomes harmful. Today I see somebody who I know in person and in on Instagram, and they look like two different people. It's pretty shocking and pretty damaging, not just for me, more importantly for the younger generation out there, because that's when you're the most impressionable. I mean, at the age of 13 or 14, if I was to see people on Instagram the way I do now, I would be going insane. And it's not just about the way they look in their, their bodies or whatever. It's also about their lifestyle. Like everybody's only posting pictures about them traveling, about them living their best life, eating the best food, um, going to the best places. Nobody's going to show you the times in which they're sitting and crying and upset and breaking down and going through a really tough time. Nobody's going to show you that. Nobody wants people to perceive them that way, which is sometimes is why I literally go out on a tangent and I'm like, this is how I look today. I have a pimple here. I have acne. My hair's a mess. I've had a really bad day for whatever reason. And I'm not feeling okay today. And it's okay not to feel okay. That's
Correct.
really important, which is why there are very few celebrities and bloggers and Instagram faces who do this. And I really, really respect that because I have only a platform of 34,000 people. That's not a lot of people in the scheme of things. Um, but I have to say, I have very interesting followers who are very intelligent and, DM me and message me all the time about the things that I say. But I think if more people who had a platform to speak started showing the real part of their lives, it would be incredible. Like our world would be a more harmonious place.
Correct. I was actually very recently I came across this, which is about 2 months back. I came to know that there's something known as fake tan, which I didn't know
Yeah.
existed. For my whole life, I didn't know that existed. And what I realized, what I was reading about is people have this thing that we've made this different rules about having this bronze. Everyone needs to look like bronze, which looks
Yeah.
really good in the standard. So that is why people go with fake tans or people go with color skin and all. So even one of my friends was actually telling me this that she's fair. So her parents, one of her relatives came to her and she said when she was small that you have nice features. It's not because she looked in a certain way, it's just because of the color and all embedded in the mindset. I feel it's like because of colonialism it happened to a certain extent. I'm not very sure, but because of one of those impacts, I would say.
100%. I think, like, I mean, what's also another very problematic issue on Instagram is almost every month, what is considered as aspirational is changing. It's like today you should have a thin waist and a big, bottom half, or tomorrow you should have this kind of skin color and these kind of eyes, and it changes every day. Like it's so confusing. If you were to get stuck in that rut, you just
Correct.
wouldn't know what to do with your body or yourself or your life because the standards change every day.
Correct. And it's also scary because I was reading the news. I think a Brazilian model or something, she passed away because of some surgery or something like that. And it gets dangerous. Obviously, I'm not saying it's very dangerous, but just reading about it does scare me up, I would say.
No, of course. I mean, I think like the extents that people are going to for beauty these days is pretty shocking, not just for other people to see and be like, oh, that person looks so good. How? But also damaging to them internally, like how many surgeries can you have? How far are you willing to take it? And at the end, you're not really going to look like you, are you? You're
Correct.
going to
You're
look
going to
like
be
a
something
whole
completely
other
different.
person. You're going to
Exactly.
look like a whole other person. If you're okay with that, good for you. Look, to each their own. I just don't think that should be the standard.
Correct.
That's what my problem is with society. Look how you want, do what you want to yourself, put as much makeup as you like, do plastic surgery. It's your life. You want life to live. You want to enhance your beauty, go ahead and do it. But don't let that become the standard for people who don't want to do that,
Correct. Just
in
do it
my
for yourself. Don't do it for other people.
yeah.
If it makes you feel happy, then do it. Not to make other people happy. I would say that. Correct. But we've spoke about therapy before. So what are your thoughts on that? I wanted to know that.
I am a huge advocate of therapy. Um, it's not just me, it's people close to me who I've seen go through a lot of things. And I think it's very, very important to get the help that you need. The problem is that in India, we have such a big stigma attached to therapy, um, because you're considered like off or not okay and mentally unstable. That's not the case. Tomorrow you have an issue, you with your body or your health, you go to the doctor, right?
Correct.
I have a cough, I go to the doctor. I need a surgery, I go to the doctor. Why is that not the same thing with your mind? It's probably the most important organ in your entire body. Why aren't we giving it that much importance? It's most complex, the most important organ in your whole body. Literally, it runs your life. We should be taking care of our mind, our brain, our mental health more than anything else in today's day and age.
Correct. You
I
know,
myself have been a therapist.
correct. So what happened with me during the whole COVID outbreak was classes shifted online. And that was something which I found really hard to deal with. It did affect my grades also a lot. And I didn't go to a therapist exactly, but I went to the school counselor who played a similar role of a therapist at that time. And I told her what I was feeling, how I couldn't cope up with online classes and all. And she helped me and guided me. And I can tell you this, my grades actually improved after that session just by talking about it and explaining it and getting her opinion on it.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just need somebody to speak to who isn't your friend or isn't your family and not somebody close to you, somebody who can evaluate you and talk to you as a completely third person party and give you advice from that perspective. Today, I'm starting to see a change, I feel, in the way people look at mental health. I saw something really cool on Instagram the other day. It was a video about a boy who was diagnosed with depression and ADHD. And his grandparents, not even his grandparents gave him a gift of paying for his therapy. So stuff like that makes me so happy because why are we progressing if we're not being able to deal with, stigma that has been occurring for such a long time?
Correct. And
And
I
now
feel
more than
also,
ever, like you said, COVID times, like you had such a hard time with online classes. That's so many kids, and it's a very real thing. It's a
correct.
very real thing. And the levels of things that people need help with, I never think that should be judged. Like you can speak to a therapist if you're just not feeling good about yourself. And it may not be some major traumatic event that's happened. It may be something, but what's a pain point for you is a pain point for you. It cannot be measured or judged by anybody else. If it's not making you feel good, go and speak to somebody.
And I feel also everyone has different trigger points. So what thing may trigger someone else, it won't trigger you. What may trigger me won't trigger. So it's different, and we can't judge what happens to others because there's like a history or story behind it, which is why they react in a certain way.
And it often goes back very far, like most therapists speak to you about your childhood, something that may have upset you. Any incident could be a trigger for you, and that's okay. It's
Correct.
fine. Like you need to get the help that you need. I'd
You
say
know,
this many, many times.
I feel a lot of this happened after COVID. I think people slowly started accepting it a lot more. Earlier, it wasn't very accepted. And, I feel that's a very good thing that happened because of COVID. Because even on social media now, people are talking about it. People are spreading awareness about it, which is why, because so many people are talking about it, it's becoming more acceptable, I feel.
Absolutely, it is, and I'm really happy about. See, we talk about social media. It's such a double-edged sword, right? Like there are times when you're so happy because you see such positivity spreading, so much awareness spreading. COVID outreach during the pandemic, like there was so much outreach because of social media. But then
Correct.
also it's got its pros and cons, like trolling, bullying, misinformation,
Correct.
propaganda.
So it's like a challenge for our generation to figure out what information do we need to take in and what we need to leave out. So once we can work in that, I think it'll be a much more better place.
I think we have to make ourselves human filters.
Okay, Anissa, I wanted to come to the last part of the podcast, the last two parts, actually, I would say, about fashion and creativity. So I wanted to ask you, how do you continuously keep yourself creative? Because what I've realized is that certain people, most people actually, after a certain age, they kind of lose that creative charm, I would say. So how do you keep yourself relevant in that space?
To begin with, I am the daughter of an artist. So for me, it's always like inspiring to watch my mom at work, just finding new perspectives on things, doing really cool new art projects and stuff like that. So that's been a huge shaping force. My dad's also a very creative person. So both my parents' influences and my husband is really creative. So I'm surrounded by creativity all around me. So I'm always like trying to push the envelope, in whether it's in my fashion, whether it's in home decor or whatever it is. I'm always trying to find a creative edge. I think creativity is really subjective. Like what I may find creative and cool, you may not. I'm also a huge art
Correct.
enthusiast. Like I love painting, art history, and all of that. So like I keep reading up about that stuff and new art forms and new artists. So that keeps me very occupied. But as for personal creativity, when it comes to style, I don't follow trends at all. I just see unknown combinations of known things and put them together, because that's how I think things should be done. What I've realized is that what a trending look or a trending bag or shoes or clothes are may not suit me or my body type. So I have to get creative with what I'm comfortable with.
Correct. I think that makes sense, wearing what your body finds comfortable and what you like personally rather than
Yeah,
following the trends, I would say. Even for me, I actually do that.
absolutely.
One thing is I love sweatshirts a lot and hoodies. So, and I like wearing
Me
colorful
too.
clothes. Yeah. See, even right now, I'm wearing a sweatshirt because I just love wearing these. So, and the
Yeah,
second
even
thing
though
is
it's like the dead of summer.
correct. It's very hot, but it's still very fun.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, I love wearing these colorful clothes. I don't know why. I have a pair of pink chinos, which I love wearing with. I don't know. I match out with blue. Sometimes it goes with green, but it only goes with a certain shade of green, like olive green, kind of like and all.
Yeah.
So that's what I like doing. I like mixing and matching colors, but mainly I this style which I stick to is kind of loose clothing, not the tight one, because I really don't like it, I would say.
Yeah. I do too. I love, who doesn't love loose clothes? They're so comfy.
But I wanted to ask you this: what would be your fashion tips for? Okay, three fashion tips for boys and three fashion tips for girls.
Let's start with girls because it's easier. Fashion tip number one is, please, please do not follow every trend you see, because very long and it's just may not work. So do what you are comfortable with, what suits your body type, what suits your personality. Because at the end of the day, wearing clothes is a form of self-expression.
Correct.
So you have to portray most of yourself in that as well. Tip number two is, I always do this, and I think it's really important, and it's advice actually I got from a stylist myself, is buy pieces that you can rewear a lot. It's a part of sustainable fashion to repeat clothing and outfits. I genuinely feel there is, people think it's like, how can you wear the same outfit twice? I'm like, how can you not? You've spent on that, wear it as much as you can in different ways, in different forms, invest in separate pieces. So when you buy a set of two things, like a twin set, you can wear it in so many different ways. Wear clothes, repeat clothes more often. That's my second tip. Why should you not? And the third one is, a mix of high street and high fashion is very important. Like I'm a big fan of like mixing and matching more expensive pieces with more reasonable pieces, stuff you may find at a local market somewhere. Put everything together because that's what makes it interesting. You don't want copy paste outfits from the internet.
Correct.
That's for girls. Um, for boys, I would say I think colors are very important. Like you
I
said,
get that.
play around with colors a lot. Exactly, you can change the whole outfit with that. Don't always wear the same jeans and the same pants all the time. Switch it up a little bit. Wear some prints. Wear something different. Mix of silhouettes. Actually, that's what I find really interesting. Like if your pants are on the skinnier side, then the sweatshirt should be on the looser side. If your pants are looser, your top should be a little tighter. So play with silhouettes a lot. And the third thing for men's style, I would say, is I personally prefer when it's like more on the casual side. I love the whole hoodies and the sweatpants and the whole athleisure look for men more than women is, I would say.
Okay, luckily I
So
fit
yeah,
into
that's
all three
three.
of these parts. So that means
Yes,
I'm going
yes,
right on
good.
point because I got your approval, I would say, in a sense. And since you are in the styling space, so that
Little
works for me.
fashion advisor.
Correct. But do you have any last
Great.
advice for anyone who's watching or listening to this podcast?
See, any platform I get to speak, I'm going to say this multiple times and can't repeat it enough. Please don't believe everything you see on social media. Um, Try and be as comfortable as in your skin as you are, because eventually you're going to realize that the most important thing you have in life is not the way you look and not your outward appearance. It's who you are on the inside. And as cheesy as that sounds, literally that's what stays with you your whole life: your values, your beliefs, your confidence, your personality. That's the most important thing you can wear. It's what's in your heart. And the next thing I would like to say is just be yourself. Just be yourself completely, because the people who like you and want to be around you you'll only attract the right type of people and the right type of vibes in your life if you put out what you really are. And I
Correct. I
found that
think
working for me in life.
correct. I think that's very true. If you put yourself out, you will find the people similar to you. If you put a fake personality of you out, you'll find people similar to the fake personality, and then you won't like those people.
Exactly.
Correct.
It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
Awesome. It was really great having you. Thank you so much for joining in. And I really look forward to having you again on the podcast in the future.
Thank you so much, Ayush. It was lovely to speak to you and definitely look forward to doing this again.